Hello and welcome back to my YouTube channel. So now I know the title is probably ruffling some feathers. I know I would feel attacked too if I also read it. But I recently watched Kaya Foster's YouTube videos. I hadn't followed her in such a long time that seeing her videos I was like, oh wow, there's so much I've missed out on. So now she posted a video called about her ADHD and the fact that she's getting medicated. And so as I looked through her catalog, I saw that she hadn't posted in like 4 months, and I was thinking, I understand the mental strain of being like sick, with a mental disorder, mental illness, or just any psychiatric issue. Nobody's perfect. So now when I saw this, I thought, okay, her getting on meds will probably help her be more productive, get the job done. But I saw like she was going through a lot. And of course, I don't know her personal life. And it might also play a part in her childhood, the way she was raised, and the situation she's going through behind closed doors. And then I saw another YouTuber, Kim Foster. What are the odds that they would have the same name Foster? And although I don't agree with her political takes often, she's very interesting to listen to. And she also spoke about herself being on ADHD medication. So now we have two content creators that have been diagnosed with ADHD and have decided to take treatment. So now I became curious. I was like, is it helping them? Their productivity, I'm not sure if it's been okay because they haven't posted in a long time, but this might not be their only source of income. They have busy lives, jobs that they have to do. I'm not even consistent. So now, after seeing that, I started to think a lot of people are consuming a lot of media, of course, especially with the pandemic. We're stuck at home. What else can we do other than just being on your phone? So now I went and I did the research, and I found that the effects of screen time plays a part in ADHD or any other type of mental illness, like narcissism, posting all the time on Instagram. So a 2019 study published in the peer-reviewed open access journal PLOS ONE suggested that children who spend more than 2 hours in front of screens, including gaming and mobile devices, each day had a seven-fold increased risk of meeting the criteria for ADHD. Now, of course, the criteria for ADHD is much more complex. In my pharmacology course at university, we're learning about it, and you have to meet the criteria for a certain period of time, and it can also become mixed up with other types of psychiatric issues. Okay, so now just because you lack attention span or you become irritated very easily, it doesn't mean that you just have ADHD. So now moving on to the signs and symptoms. I'll be talking about it from the perspective of an adult, so I won't look at the symptoms in children, but mainly teenagers and adults. So symptoms can be inattentiveness or difficulty focusing and concentrating. The main signs are having a short attention span, making careless mistakes in your schoolwork, and appearing forgetful or losing things. I know my nickname in high school was, dumb blonde, even though I'm not blonde. And I was very forgetful. I would forget things. Being unable to stick to tasks. So things like that really do play a part in knowing whether you have it or not. Hyperactivity and impulsiveness. So the main signs of hyperactivity and impulsivity are being unable to sit still, especially in a calm or quiet surrounding, constantly fidgeting, being unable to concentrate on tasks, and excessive physical movement. I know for me, I do not exercise, but my muscle tone, especially my legs and my arms, they are really muscular, even though I don't exercise. Sure, it can be based on your kibi body type, whether you're an apple shape or things like that, but at the same time I'm always fidgeting and moving around, especially my arms and my legs, so it's bound to be toned. It's very interesting. Okay, so now symptoms in adults. In adults, the symptoms of ADHD are more difficult to define. This is largely due to lack of research in adults with ADHD. As ADHD is a developmental disorder, so it's believed it cannot develop in adults without it first appearing during childhood. But symptoms of ADHD in children and teens are often continuing into adulthood. The way in which inattentiveness, hyperactivity, and impulsiveness affect adults can be very different from the way they affect children. For example, hyperactivity tends to decrease in adults, while inattentiveness tends to remain as the pressure of adult life increases. So your effects in university and then entering the workforce, you might feel overwhelmed. Adult symptoms of ADHD also tend to be far more subtle than childhood symptoms. Some specialists have suggested the following as a list of symptoms associated in adults: carelessness and lack of attention to detail, continually starting new tasks before finishing old ones, poor organizational skills, inability to focus or prioritize, and continuously losing or misplacing things. Okay, so now related conditions in adults that may think they have ADHD can be personality disorders. So not everything is ADHD. It can be more serious or it can be less serious. Bipolar disorder, a condition affecting your mood. So you can get mood swings from one extreme to another. Or obsessive compulsive disorder, a condition that causes obsessive thoughts and compulsive behavior. The behavioral problems associated with ADHD can also cause problems such as difficulties with relationship and social interactions. So you never finish your chores. It can affect your relationship with your family, or you become bored, quote unquote, in a relationship and you're unable to build better and stronger bonds. Okay, so now moving on to the pros and cons of having ADHD. Of course, just because someone has a developmental issue, it does not mean that they won't go on into their lives, into adulthood. You don't just die because you have difficulties focusing. The pros and cons of ADHD. The pros of ADHD are multi-talented individuals. These individuals are able to do things pretty well. In fact, they can do many sports and many hobbies that are too many to consider. Some of them can do notable things so well that others can't do altogether, including calligraphy, drawing, martial arts, skateboarding, softball, and writing, specifically writing. Number 2, being a fast reader. Some of these people are able to read books at a very fast pace in which they can finish 5 to 10 books simultaneously in just a matter of 1 week. Likewise, they can finish reading regular novels of 200 to 300 pages in only a few hours. So now that is something to note. But you can also think about the fact that multitasking or doing multiple things all at the same time can lead you to giving half effort to all the different activities instead of focusing 100% on your effort on one thing. Number 3, having lots of thoughts and ideas. Number 4, being more creative. Number 5, focus on one thing only. So when it comes to doing and finishing a single task, it is their prerogative to pay attention at nothing but that particular subject alone. So it really does depend. It's on and off depending on their interest level in the situation. So the list of cons of ADHD. Number 1 is their bothersome talent. The problem with having too many talents is that they are not able to do one thing very well, which was mentioned before. Although they are capable of doing many things, they can just do it to a certain extent, but not to a very talented level. So they can't master a single talent despite the fact that they are good at it. Number 2, non-stop thoughts. Having too many thoughts and ideas can sometimes make them a bad conversationalist. This is due to the fact that they can't filter a single thought at a time. 3, they are bad listeners. Although they are good at helping other people, ADHD personalities can be poor listeners. Some of them have severe impairments in auditory focus, making them unable to focus on lectures or people hosting an event. Number 4, offering too much information. Number 5, depression and anxiety. Number 6, easily gets bored. This is the problem in relationships. Number 7, educational disadvantages. You sometimes feel like school is just not for you. You can't focus. You require more in life. And then number 8, career problems. This disability to remember things should affect the careers of people as they overlook projects and forget certain details in assignments. My unpopular opinion is that a lot of you are attention seekers. This is specifically for the people that constantly talk about their ADHD online. They are just attention seekers trying to force mental illness on themselves. Same thing in modern society, adopting other people's genders, personalities. There's a video about Girl Interrupted and how the cultural phenomenon at the time affected many teenage girls. I know I still want to be goth, but I haven't gone through that phase yet. It isn't in my personality. I am preppy and it is the way God made me. Please be yourself. Stop being a scaredy cat and stop being a copycat. In general, we are all overstimulated, and I'm not going to go into that because there's so many videos online discussing overstimulation and watching too many videos. All I know is that when I'm done with university, I'm going to throw away my phone, which is a smartphone, and I'm going to get myself one of those old Motorola's from the 90s so I can just focus on making calls, getting things done, and not scrolling mindlessly through YouTube. Hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll also be discussing the 5 types of intelligence. Okay, I'm currently reading a book about intelligence. So the book is called it was originally called The 5 Frameworks of Intelligence, and it made me realize that we hold ourselves to other people's standards, right? So now there are 5 kinds of intelligence. I'll just say it off the top of my head because I don't have the book with me right now. So there's mathematical or logistical intelligence, and that's school smart. You know, people who are good at maths. If you're a top achiever at school, you probably have this main intelligence, and that's what everyone in the world is technically graded on. We're all based on this intelligence. And then there's naturalistic intelligence, people who are so good at plants, you know, planting things and like being able to manipulate nature and matter. So people who are really good at cooking, people who are good with animals. And then there's interpersonal intelligence, so people who are people, so they have really good people skills, communication skills. And then there's linguistics intelligence, so those are people who love reading, they are bibliophiles, they like writing, they write poems, they tend to do really well in school essays. And then there's intrapersonal intelligence, which is how you can control your own emotions, so it's your emotional intelligence in terms of yourself. And then there's also existential intelligence, and that is your ability to understand like philosophy, basically. Like you have a deep interest in philosophy and like religion, theology, things like that. And then there's also body or kinetics intelligence, and that's just your body's way of movement. You know, people, if everyone in the world could get abs, then we would, but it takes a certain level of skill and smarts to get there. You know, top athletes, Usain Bolt, rugby players, football players, you have a different kind of intelligence, and we can't grade everyone on school smarts. It's not fair because we're not all smart in that case. But there's a lot more. I will link a test that you can take to see what type of intelligence you have. Oh my gosh, it's absolutely amazing. I'm going to try my best to like read out chapters from the book based on each type of intelligence, so I'm really looking forward to that. And now, after finding out about this book, I watched a video lecture of, I think it was at MIT. It was a Microsoft research lecture, and they had a guest speaker. I can't remember his name, but I'll put it up on the screen. And now he was busy talking about how people tend to have this ridiculous, gross notion that Westerners are not as smart as Asian people. Like we are just inherently not as intelligent as they are. Let's say as Easterners are. And he basically made the argument against like, if you're not smart, it's just not who you are. You know, there are probably other things that you can do, but if you're not smart, it's okay, and things like that. So now he said, no, it's about the mindset. Asian people are stereotypically, or actually proven to be more smart because they work hard. They have it ingrained in them not to think, oh, I'm not smart, so there's nothing I can do. They're like, you have to work, you have to put in the effort to become smarter, right? And he mentioned more about how in Europe, they used to have seasons for farming, and so they would have periods of rest and periods of work, and that has still been ingrained to this day, where we know how to have like work-life balance and to be like stable in our life. But in Asia, they were rice farmers, mainly rice farmers. And so now with rice farming, you have to work from dusk till dawn
7 days a week, every day of the year. Like, rice isn't in and out of season. It's something that you constantly have to work on. So they have a worker's mentality. They know to work, work, work. And now he goes on about how we just need to teach young kids to work. And to a degree, I agree. Like, definitely, like, it made me think, oh yeah, my mindset was not in it these few months. So now I can understand how your mindset as well can delay you or hold you back from your actual full potential. But then at the same time, I think applying the frameworks of intelligence in general can show how, because we do believe from childhood that, oh, he's not smart or he's a good sportsman, that's what he should be doing. He shouldn't be focusing on academics. It kind of just puts that on the child until they're adults. So now it's like it is something that is learned, you know? So that's absolutely crazy how our framework and mind frame of intelligence is put onto us when we're young. If your parents spend a lot of your youth giving you math problems, sending you to coding camp, you're probably going to end up being a genius. Bill Gates, Mark Zuckerberg, you know, there's a lot of their backstories that we don't know. You know, they're wealthy parents. Like Jeff Bezos, he was given $1 million by his parents. No one ever talks about that. They just say, oh, he had a business mindset since he was young. Sure, he did, but also his parents brought him up that way. No random person or average Joe could have come up with the idea for Amazon and had it work the way that he was able to do, because he had the wealth and probably the childhood background of entrepreneurship. Okay, I don't want to take any more time, but yeah, I think that's mainly what I wanted to say on that.